So I started reading the five love languages, and those five love languages really resonated with me. I'm a Christian, and Dr. Chapman, that wrote them, was a pastor. He indicated that they reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. So I obviously did my own fact check on that and found that they really did reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. So
Yep.
what I did is I created a cube that I'm holding right now that
Mm-hmm.
that has the different love languages on it. This one is time. It has an hourglass on a hand representing time. This is a gentleman or person holding a platter representing service. Two hands put together to create a heart, and then a conversation flow out from the heart. So words from the heart, that would be the words. Two hands touching each other, it would be touch. A hand holding a gift would be gifts.
Welcome to the Natural Health Matters podcast, where it's all about maximizing your health potential so that you could look and feel your best at any age. I'm your host, David Sandstrom, and this is episode number 128. Hey, before we get started today, I'd like you to know that I want to get to know my audience better, and I would enjoy having a one-on-one conversation with you about 10 minutes over Zoom. If you'd be interested in that, go to my website, davidsandstrom.com/coffee talk, and you can pick a date and a time and schedule a 10-minute Zoom call with me one-on-one. I look forward to hearing from you. Today we have on the show Paul Zolman. Paul is a best-selling author and a love language linguist. He's come up with an innovative way to share the five love languages by being more deliberate in sharing love with others. Paul, welcome to Natural Health Matters.
Thank you, David. Pleasure to be on your show today.
Well, I'm really glad you took the time to spend the afternoon with us, because I think this is going to be a great topic. You know, I don't think I have to convince anybody that the power of love is the strongest healing power in the universe. So we would all welcome a little more love in our lives, wouldn't we? And you've got a really innovative way. And so if we could, just let's hear a little bit of your backstory and how you came about to doing what you're doing now.
Well, thank you, David. The backstory, you want the long version, short version? I can do either version, but I'll do a kind of a summary version, if that's all right.
Yeah, why don't you give us a 35,000 foot view? That'd be great.
Okay, so the summary version is that I was raised in an angry home. That angry home has abuse in many ways. It has verbal abuse, it has physical abuse, some sexual abuse as well. All those and many other types of abuse that are within the home. What that angry home looks like is that people are talking over one another, thinking maybe that my message is a whole lot more important than your message, so I'm going to talk over your message nobody's ever heard. And so it's that kind of situation that I came from. Very angry household. I remember one time being spanked so hard that I was black and blue on my rear for more than 3 weeks. It was just that type of situation.
I'm really sorry to hear that, Paul. That's rough.
It was rough. It's not a kind household to grow up in, and there was hardly ever an apology. It was just, this is the way it is. And I must have done something terrible. I have no idea what I did. And I'm number 10 of 11 children, David.
Oh.
But I felt like I got the brunt of a lot of things. I didn't see a lot of the other kids get punished like I got punished.
Well, for you, whether it was real or not, for you, it was your reality, right?
It was my reality. And I'm between two girls, and girls are his favorite because all the rest were boys. And so I'm the thorn between those two roses, older sister, younger sister, and then the rest are boys. So boys will be boys. They're like puppies, David. They wrestle around, they swat each other, and they break in arms. They're doing all that sort of thing all the time while my father's getting annoyed. And that pattern of the annoyance and stacking those annoyances till you have that flash is something that I just didn't notice at the time, but I noticed it later. At age 17, I moved in with my brother, and noticed that he had that same issue, that they'd be annoyed, stacking annoyances until they flash. You never know when the flash was going to happen.
Yeah.
And when the flash happens, it's like somebody having an accident in the swimming pool. You repel people, and you don't want to be around that person. Not your family. Your family doesn't want to be around you. Nobody wants to be around an angry person. So that's kind of the residual anger I had as an adult. By the time I'm age 35, I realized I'm still blaming my father for all these awkward moments. And he'd been dead already 7 years. So I started
Yeah.
to realize I need to take responsibility for my own life. And that was really kind of a turning point for me.
hmm one of my favorite TV shows is Special Forces, and my wife and I were kind of binge watching that last night. And there was a guy on the show. He was a celebrity, reality TV show celebrity, and he had an affair. And then he got hammered on Instagram and got hammered in all kinds of media outlets about what a scumbag he was. And he was kind of playing the victim.
Mm.
I've been so hurt by all of this, and they brought him in and they talked to him, and said, "Yeah, we noticed there's something going on here," and he told him a story, and they were like, "Well, why are you blaming other people for something you brought on yourself? It's time you started taking ownership." And that's my favorite part of the show is they go in there and they do some great challenging training events in the show. That's cool. But the best part of the show is when they sit there and talk to what's going on inside. Let's talk about you. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy that part of the show. It makes it great.
Those are hard reality moments, David, and
hmm
having a private moment myself in doing that was a whole lot better than I'm sure that public flogging was awful for that for that
Sure.
person on the special forces. And
hmm
sometimes we do that to ourselves. We ought really all the time do that to ourselves. But sometimes it's you do become a victim in this type of thing, and you become but you can't stay there
Right.
because if you're blaming someone, and I like to do it on a spectrum, that if anger was on the naughty side of the spectrum and love is on the nice side of the spectrum, and I'm blaming somebody, I'm really kind of still on that angry side, but I'm not moving more toward anger, and I'm not moving anywhere toward love on
Right.
that spectrum. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's their fault. I'm blaming them. I don't have to do a thing. I'm great. I'm good. It's their fault. And when
Yeah.
you do that, you have no opportunity to get worse, and you really have no opportunity to get better. You can't set goals when you're blaming people.
That's right.
When you start taking responsibility, that's when you can set a goal to be a better person. And so
Right.
that's kind of where I was. This anger that I had and these outbursts that I had, I'm sure were contributory to the demise of my first marriage. After 23 and a half years and 8 children, my wife decided she didn't want any more of it. So I became primary custodian for the remaining 5 children in the household. So I started reading the 5 love languages, and those 5 love languages really resonated with me. I'm a Christian, and Dr. Chapman, that wrote them, was a pastor. He indicated that they reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. So I obviously did my own fact check on that and found that they really did reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. Still, from where I came from, David, I couldn't figure out how to apply it. Dr. Chapman, you mean that if I guess what David's love language is and apply it and do that, cater to that, then we're going to be buddies? That doesn't sound like love. I don't know what love is yet because I didn't come from love. That didn't sound like love to me, and so that didn't
Yeah.
work for me.
Yeah.
So the second thing that Dr. Chapman has was, so, well, if you take this survey, you'll be able to find out what your love language is, what you like to receive. Well, Dr. Chapman, what did I do with that? Advertise? Hello, David. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? Those are awkward situations, and
yeah.
I'm done. I'm really done with awkward. I don't want awkward. So I had
Yeah.
an idea, David. When we were younger in our family, as dysfunctional as it was, we played games. And remember that the games bringing the family together. There was still all the smack talk. There were still all the put downs. There was still the aggressive competition, and there was still all that strategy. All those things that are in an angry culture. All that
Mm.
withstanding, it brought our family together. So I thought, I have an idea. Maybe we can make this a game. So
Yeah.
what I did is I created a cube that I'm holding right now that
hmm
that has the different love languages on it. This one is time. It has an hourglass on a hand representing time. This is a gentleman or person holding a platter representing service. 2 hands put together to create a heart, and then a conversation flow out from the heart. So words from the heart, that would be the words. 2 hands touching each other, it would be touch. A hand holding a gift would be gifts.
If you're listening to the audio version, he's holding up a cube that's about, I would say, what, maybe an inch and a half square.
Just 1 inch.
Okay, it's 1 inch square, and he's showing us the different sides of the cube. So a lot of the audience is listening, driving in their cars or whatever. So don't
Right.
have the luxury of watching the YouTube version. So
That's,
anyway, Paul, go ahead.
so six sides on the cube, David. The last side I created, I call it surprise me. It's a hand that holds a question mark. So there's just two instructions. You roll the cube every day. Whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. All day to everyone, David. And, Dr. Chapman suggests it more romantic, that you do it to a significant other. I didn't have anybody. I was single when I created this. So
Yeah.
I was trying to improve my marketability, so to speak, so that I could actually have a great relationship in a marriage situation. So you roll the die every day. Over a 30-day period, you're going to learn all 5 love languages to give it away. Best part about that, David, is that now you'll be able to see it when it comes your way and to respond appropriately. I have missed a lot of opportunities, I'm sure, of people loving on me throughout the years and not seeing it. This gives me that peripheral vision that I can see it now and respond appropriately. So if it's not my primary love language and they're still sending love, say I'm physical touch and they're sending words, it's over here out of my range, but I still see that they're loving on me by sending the words, I can respond appropriately now. It's just better for the communication.
Yeah. Okay. So again, if you haven't read the book, what he's referring to is out of the 5 love languages, Gary Chapman says, you probably have 1, maybe 2 that are far more meaningful to you than the others. And the idea is in a married relationship, you share that with your spouse and they can focus on your primary love language. And if you don't, it's kind of like putting nickels in a parking meter that only takes quarters. And you keep putting a nickel in, another nickel in, and nothing's happening. You put some more nickels in and say, what's wrong with this parking meter? Nothing wrong with the parking meter. You're giving it the wrong coin. And the same is true in relationships. If we usually would tend to give people what we want, not necessarily what they want. So that's the theme of the 5 love languages. And so talk some more about how what happened when you started implementing this. Was it overnight revelation for you, or was it a gradual process? What was that like?
Thank you, David. I appreciate that question. I love the analogy that you just did for the parking meter. That is absolutely perfect. So really, what my whole what I was doing before, and I realized that what I was doing was stacking those annoyances to have that flash of anger. Part of the annoyance was, though, David, that I was in my mind thinking, or saying out loud, what's wrong with that person? Why can't they do something right? And I realized that that's not even my call. That what they're choosing to do and living their life, I'm not their manager.
Right.
And I realized I had to draw that line. And that's one thing about angry culture. There are no borders. There are no boundaries, so to speak, like that. So I had to really draw that boundary in my life that what other people are doing is their stuff. Quit being annoyed at what they're doing. I have zero control over that. And then I realized what I do have control over is sending that love out and watching for it to come my way. When it does come my way, just respond appropriately. So what I found, the paradigm shift for me was I stopped being annoyed because I realized that's not my call, and stopped saying what's wrong with them, started saying now what's right with them, what can I love about them, and then realized that people are intrinsically good, maybe 80 to 90% all good, and maybe 10 to 20% they've got some faults, they've got some misgivings, they've got some weaknesses that I was focused on that before. Now I'm focused on the 80 to 90% that's good. And I am so busy that I forgot about being annoyed. I'm so busy watching for what's right about people that it really seemed like it was overnight. Really within that 30-day period of developing the habit of watching for what's right about people, I really overcame watching for what's wrong about them.
So is 30 days kind of a magic number? Is that what most people experience? It takes about 30 days to get in the groove and really make this their own?
So the sweet spot for building a habit, David, is the 21 to 28 days. I just say 30 days just to make sure it's just a habit. it's a habit that you want to keep. After you develop this habit, you'll want to keep it. I had the cube copyrighted in 2017, but I still roll it. I still roll it every single day. It's part of the morning routine now. 2 seconds to roll the die. Who doesn't have 2 seconds that they can spare to set a theme for the day, especially a loving theme? It's worked really well that way.
So talk to me about the bridge between sharing a love language with a stranger and saying, I'm going to look for the good in people, because there seems like there's two different things that they're kind of going on at the same time there.
It's more of a decency, David. It's a great question. And what we're looking for is just sending out kindness. And I look at these love languages really as basic. Everybody really needs to have this in the repertoire. They need to be able to understand the music from the love languages, that they really need to know all the love languages. When you do that, instead of stacking annoyance on top of annoyance on top of annoyance to get to that anger, now what you're doing, you're stacking kindness on top of kindness on top of kindness to get to the higher laws of love. I'm talking about intimacy. I'm talking about forgiveness. Can you imagine someone insulting, and then trying to ask for forgiveness for all that? It's not going to happen. It has to be kindness stacked upon kindness to get to that forgiveness, or the mercy, or the compassion, or the empathy, or the sympathy. Those are all higher laws of love. These are the basics.
So how would this? I know that you've done some work with schools, because I've got a friend. His name is Brian Davidson, and his movement is called the Whisper Movement. And he goes into public schools and he shares some of this very same information with the students. And there's a lot of, even before COVID, there was a lot of social isolation in the high school aged children. And he has got a method of bringing some of these relational needs and the love languages into schools in a secular format, even though, this is some very much based in biblical teaching and the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. But he brings it in a very friendly format, in a public school format, and teaches students how to connect with another human being. Our kids are just grown up with, cell phones nearby within arm's reach. And it's just normal for them to have a relationship with text messages only. And they're trying to get back to the idea of, actually, it's better to look somebody in the eye and have a conversation, have a little need time. This is important, and it's important to recognize somebody and acknowledge them for who they are, and offer them empathy and compassion and respect and all those things. So tell me, let's talk to us a little bit about how this is working in schools, your method.
That's a great question, David. I had never heard of Brian Davidson and the Whisper Movement. I have not. I'm very, very interested now to learn more about that, because
it's similar.
Yeah, and if it's similar, there's some cooperative things that we can do. Because what I'm doing right now is testing this in the school system, and this is the way the test is going. So the first thing in the morning, the teacher or a class or student is rolling the die. The teacher is explaining for 30 to 45 seconds, so max a minute of their time in the morning. Class, this is what we're looking for. This is the type of activities we're watching for today. I'm really focused on K through 6 right now, because I think that they start in the same classroom, they end in the same classroom on the day. There's really not that change of classrooms for those particular grades. And I think that really works well for the program that I'm doing. They're going through the day. At the end of the day, I've talked to teachers around the world, David. Every teacher, without fail, says that last 10 to 15 minutes is really difficult time. It's time where the kids they're antsy. They've been there all day. They're tired. Their brains are mush. They just don't want to do anything. And I've inserted something for that last 10 to 15 minutes. It's a journal page, so they can record what they rolled, what opportunities they saw to love in that way, what they did about that opportunity. So now what happens is, now that child, instead of the teacher, instead of the principal, now the child is absolutely responsible for their own behavior. And we're teaching that in those primary grades. That's going to be huge all by itself. Remember, it took me to age 35 to realize, oh, I'm responsible for my actions, and I was blaming everybody else. This teaches the child they're responsible for their actions. Knowing that, they have to write about it at the end of the day. Yeah, or they could draw a picture. Kindergartners or first graders could draw a picture if they're not really used to writing. But imagine
Yeah.
they could come up with some story to write, and then they hand it in to the teacher. Teacher does just a check mark, and then they send it home with the child.
Yeah,
Or
that's really amazing because one of the primary tenets of the whisper movement is they don't want it to be top down. They don't want to be the school administration just makes kids do this. What they do is they go in and they find the influential students in the school, and they train them in how to teach others how to do this and how to offer these relational needs to other students. And it's student led,
that's
and I
brilliant.
think that ownership is really key to making this work. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying about relationships. You can go around blaming other people for your personality quirks all you want, but until you realize I'm the only one that can change myself and I can't change other people, really nothing's going to happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah, well said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so what happens with that journal, so to speak, the student parents will collect those at the end of the year. Now you have a love journal for that first grader. You have a love journal for that third grader or fifth grader. I would have loved to have a love journal like that from my first grade. I remember my first grade teacher's name. That's been a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Mrs. Rogers. I don't remember second grade. I don't remember third grade. I don't remember fourth or fifth grade. I remember sixth grade. But what's the difference? What made that difference? I would have loved to have known and had something written. Plus, that becomes now a journal that you can pass on to for generations. You've got a grandchild now that's 6 years old. Look what I did in my first grade.
Mm-hmm.
You went to
Mm-hmm.
first grade, Grandpa? It's hard to believe. I know,
Yeah.
and it just becomes a fun thing to build relationships throughout the generations.
So let's imagine just a little role play here. So you're a third grade teacher, let's say, and you roll the die and you get acts of service. What would you encourage the students to do if today is going to be acts of service?
So acts of service, somebody could be up to get their own backpack, but maybe the companion that sits right beside them also needs their backpack. They could bring both back at the same time. You have to go to your little cubby and bring your backpack back. That could be something just simple. It's not really huge acts of service, but it's just
Yeah.
decency, those acts of kindness in that way. You can still open doors. You can still help somebody, get into line. Maybe they're trying to crowd into line, and you could let them in, just like you're driving a car. Obviously, they're not driving cars at that age, hopefully not. But it's just like somebody's trying to get into line. You can help them get a place in line, or save them a place, save them a seat to eat with them.
Yeah.
Those would all be great acts of service.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah, I get it. So when someone implements these principles and it becomes their own, what kind of changes can they expect?
Like I said, it's looking at the positive of life, looking at the positive aspects of one another. The media has taught us to watch for what's bad about that person, and forget that. Just start watching for what's right about the person. And I think that's just a mindset that is really forgotten. It's almost been forgotten in these days. We need to focus more on what's right about people instead of what's wrong with them.
Yeah, for sure. And when we do, we experience more love in our own lives,
Mhm.
and we experience more peace. And more peace
And
brings more health, for sure, at all levels. So how would
absolutely.
this work? And how would this work in the workplace?
In the workplace, it's very similar, only, as far as physical touch, you're not going in for the hug. You're doing the high five, the fist bumps, the pats on the back above the waist, obviously. And you're doing that sort of thing. But it's just the common decency and building that. For those in leadership positions, it's making sure that your employees are feel loved and they feel wanted and needed within the workplace. If you can do that, you're going to have retention. Nobody ever quits a job. They quit the people that are in the job. They really quit
Mm,
what's going on in the work. They may like the job or they may hate the job. They might quit the job at some point in time, but for the most part, it's quitting the people, quitting that office gossip, quitting the office backbiting, quitting all that. That's what they're quitting, and they're going to another place that might be a little bit better that way. So that's one thing that you're going to, from the top down, you're going to make sure the employees are okay. From the employee standpoint, they're going to be nicer to the customers. From the sales standpoint, they're going to understand who their clients a little bit better. That they'll be able to couch it or present the presentation in a love language that their client's going to understand and going to love it. They're going to, so it can improve sales. It's going to improve the customer service. It's going to improve the just the circumstances and the atmosphere at the workplace as well.
So how do you get an organization to buy in? I mean, I would assume that you've contacted various organizations and they've gotten on board with this idea. But what's that process look like? How would you go about introducing a decision maker in a place of business that this is something they should embrace?
It's very difficult from the top down, as you've already mentioned. I'm having a whole lot more success from the bottom up, from the employees there. They're rolling the die in the morning. In fact, I've got an employee at Walmart, of all places, that actually has gone in and is loving the customers, is loving the workers there, and now all the supervisors are saying, "What are you doing? How come everybody's asking for John? Why is it?" I mean, they're all asking for John. Everybody's wants John. Why is that? And it is almost like he's become a novelty within the workplace. So that's really what that looks like. Is you become that novelty in the workplace. You become that kind and loving person. Everybody wants to gravitate toward, rather than somebody that repels people.
Yeah, so leading by example, just letting your light shine before men, right?
Absolutely,
and letting that infect the workplace and be contagious. I love it. Is there a Bible verse? Do you have a favorite Bible verse that kind of sums up this message a little bit?
You know what, David? I absolutely love the Bible, and I love the words of Jesus. One thing that a question or a statement that he made at the Last Supper is something I really, really treasure in my own life. It's really been helpful for me in my own life. He said that one of you is going to betray me, but each one of the disciples, one by one, every one of them said, "Lord, is it I?" And I think that just that phrase, "Lord, is it I?" those three words, if we try to check our own relationships with that, "Lord, is it I that's the problem in this relationship?" And I think that as we include that in the prayers that we say, I think that we're going to have some revelations, some personal thoughts that come to mind of how we can better that relationship. My experience is that it comes one by one. It's just like the scripture says, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. It comes just like Jesus learned, just like he became, grew in wisdom and stature with God and with man. Yeah. That practice of doing it little by little and asking that question, "Lord, is I," is really going to help us, improve our own lives and the lives of others along the way as well.
I'm thinking of the verse that says, first remove the log from your own eye, and then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So it's about looking inside, looking at the man in the mirror first, right? Of course, another one I thought of is, I'm thinking of is John 3:16, probably the most famous verse in the whole Bible. God so loved the world that he gave. So this is about giving, right? And not expecting anything in return, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's giving without that expectation. And that's really something that we didn't touch on much at all. I believe that Dr. Chapman, when he identified that people give away what they want to get back, I wish that he would have gone a little further with that, because I identified that as a transaction. If you're trying to get back by giving away what you expect, you're having that expectation, that's a business transaction. This is not a reality show. This is not television, and that's not love. giving it away without any expectation. We have to trust the laws of the harvest. Don't worry about it. Trust that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, again, we started the episode off with the power of love. It's contagious and it's good for us, and we all want a little more of it, don't we?
And you have to give it away to get it. I love the lyrics from the song that Rolf sings in The Sound of Music to one of the Van Trapp daughters, the oldest Van Trapp daughter. He's on the ground, she's on the second story of the home, and he says, "Love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away."
Oh, I love it. That's a great quote. Super good. One of the things I thought about, and as I was preparing for this conversation, was Dr. Timothy Jennings in his book, The God-Shaped Brain, and he has a podcast called Come and Reason. And it's he talks about God's circle of love. And basically the point he's making is love was made to be given away.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not real love, or it's not complete love anyway. Jesus said, "A greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." So it's really not love until it's given away, and you can't force it, right? You can't force somebody to love you. It has to be received, hopefully unconditionally, and that's real love. In my devotion this morning, I was reading the story about the prodigal son. And the son came to his father and said, "Hey, I want you to divide up the inheritance, and I want my inheritance now, and I'm out of here." And the father could have reacted with, "No, you're my son. You're going to stay, and I'm going to make you continue to serve in my household," assuming he was probably a farmer. But he didn't want to coerce that, because that would not have been real love. He didn't want to force his son. So he did what his son asked, and hoped and prayed that his son would come to his senses. And that's the power of love, isn't it? It's attractive.
It is.
And yeah, go ahead.
You can't just sit and wait for love to come to you either. It really is an active, it's not passive, it's really an active approach. This is an active approach. This sets the theme for the day. This gives you purpose for the day. And it really is a better way to learn the love languages, a better way to give it away, a better way to set your life on the sights of loving every single day. It really it becomes top of the mind now.
Mm-hmm. Well, you kind of just did it, but if you were going to sum up the most important thing we discussed today, what would it be?
Best way to say it, David, is with a language. It's a different language. It's from the Sanskrit dialect in northern India. The word is namaste. Most of the time, you'll hear it in a yoga class. You go to yoga. At the end of the class, they'll put their hands together like this, bow their head, close their eyes, say namaste. The divine in me sees the divine in you. That's what we're talking about today. We're watching for the divine in one another. Let's make it happen. Let's make it shine.
Yeah, I like that. Very good. So if someone wants to pick up your book and the die, what's the best way to do that?
Best way to do it is there's a bundle package online on my website, rolloflove.com, ROLE of love.com. Kind of a play on words, David. You ROLL, the cube outside of you. You ROLE will change you within. The package, I've got a journal, I've got the book, I've got the cube, all packaged together for $29.99. It's a whole lot less than just one therapy session, and it's going to last a whole lot longer by practicing it every single day.
I like it. I like it. And one of my favorite things about your system is that it's not like if you go to a marriage weekend, you can get really inspired. Mm-hmm. Right. You walk out on a Saturday or let's say Sunday afternoon, you're headed home like, man, I'm so pumped up. I'm so ready to go. But then you have kind of this parabola, this parabolic curve, and you peak out at the end of the weekend, and then it just kind of takes a nosedive, and you lose your motivation and you lose your inspiration. But this is a way to stay in it and mm-hmm. make it your own, not just something you heard about or something you learned about, but something that you can use hopefully for the rest of your life, right? And so that's what I really like about this. And that's when I first heard about what you're doing. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, is that this is a really good tool to use to change you, hopefully for the better from here on out, right? This is not just a weekend thing. This is something you can really implement and use.
Yeah, it's a lifetime. This is a lifetime work to love everybody and to love consistently. It's a lifetime work. We all should be doing it.
Yeah.
Let your light so shine.
Excellent. All right. Very good. Paul, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
David, it's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
For more, go to the show notes page at davidsandstrom.com/128. There you can find links to all the resources that we mentioned. I also have a sign-up link for FullScript. If you really care about your health, you probably want to supplement, but you don't want to supplement with just anything. FullScript has hundreds of brands and thousands of products that are not available at the retail level. They're only available through practitioners such as myself. And as part of the Natural Nation, if you create an account using my link, you'll get a 10% discount for life. So go to my website again, davidsandstrom.com/128 and sign up today. You won't regret it. That's it for now. I'll talk with you next time. Be blessed.